Welcome to the Wizards of Amazon podcast, where we cover all things private label. My name is Carlos Alvarez. I'll be your host for the show. In today's episode, I have two amazing people on the show, Yamaris Diaz, CPA from Ecom Owl, and Virginia Vich, financial consultant at VXV Consulting. How are you, ladies?
Hi, Carlos. We're doing great.
Doing good, thank you.
In today's episode, it's a topic relevant, I think, to everyone right now that is in business and listening to this show. It's April 6th at 5 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to talk about the CARE Act and how it can help business owners with employees, and I can get educated here. Everything regarding the CARE Act. Before doing that, though, for people that do not know you and why you're both extremely qualified to talk about this, or just as qualified as anyone else to talk about this, can both of you introduce yourself?
Sure, absolutely. I'm Virginia Vich. I am the founder of VXV Consulting. By way of background, I have nearly 20 years of experience in the financial services industry, working with business owners, working with families, educating them on everything from their banking, their credit, their investments, and their estate planning needs. Most recently, as Carlos, as you mentioned, this has become a hot topic. So very quickly, we have tried to make every effort to educate ourselves on all the federal assistance that's being made available and how to help clients navigate and make these resources available to them.
Okay. Yama or Yamaris, or you don't know her. I know her. I call her Yama. Yama.
So yes, some of you know me, but for the ones that don't, my name is Yamaris Diaz. Like Carlos said, I'm a CPA, a certified public accountant. I'm the founder of Ecom Owl. It's a bilingual accounting firm that servicing Amazon sellers and online entrepreneurs all over the United States. I have experience in accounting for over 10 years, and I help small businesses, specifically in the e-commerce space, just become more streamlined in their operations, and I also help them save money on taxes through strategic tax planning strategies.
Did you say bilingual accounting agency?
Bilingual. I speak Spanish and English.
Spanish and English. Yeah, I hadn't heard that one. I love it.
Oh, well, we're in Miami, so I kind of have to speak Spanish. Virginia
or not eat. Well. Or not eat.
Yeah.
No. On a serious note, I hope both of you are doing good with COVID and all the craziness going on down here in Miami. The CARE Act, why is it important for business owners, or to keep it as specific as possible for the show? Why is it important for e-commerce business owners right now? And what is it?
Sure. So the CARES Act was passed by our government about a week and a half ago. And it's a stimulus bill that really was put into place to try to help all small business owners here in the U.S. to stay afloat, to keep their employees on payroll, to make sure that businesses aren't going under while we're during this difficult time and everybody, has been forced to shut down their businesses and not really been able to go to work. I mean, that's the real main point of it, just putting this money back out there to help business owners out.
Yama, you want to add anything to that? Or?
Yeah, it's basically, she summarized it really well. It's basically for during this crisis, any financial assistance that you may need. The whole point is to make sure that everybody knows the economy has crashed, but kind of just to help as many small businesses as possible, keep their doors open.
And to clarify even more, this is for the CARE. You said the CARES Act, or was it CARE Act?
CARES.
The CARES Act.
So it stands for Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act.
I'm learning stuff already.
And it not only does it apply to small business owners, but there's going to be stimulus checks that's going to be going out to individual taxpayers as well. So more than likely, most U.S. citizens don't really need to do anything to receive those stimulus checks, assuming that they've filed tax returns in previous years. If you haven't filed your 2019 and that's your first year of filing taxes, you might want to get that done as soon as possible. So if the IRS has your banking information, you will automatically receive funds into your account. Otherwise, you'll receive a check in the mail. But the majority, there's going to be some guidelines around that, but the majority of us Americans should be receiving some stimulus checks in the near future.
I think it sounds like the personal side of that is going to be easier to get past real quick. So if you're if you've ever filed taxes, TurboTax, or you have an accountant or anything, you're eligible? Does that mean you're eligible to receive something from a stimulus check or something like that? And how would you receive it?
So basically they're going off of your prior return. So if you haven't filed yet for 2019, because as most of you guys know, they already extended the deadline. So normally your individual tax return will be on April 15th, and they extended it to July 15th. So a lot of people have not filed their taxes yet. If you haven't filed your 2019 taxes, they're gonna go off of the 2018 tax return. If you for whatever reason didn't, you were under the threshold for filing for 2018, they're still gonna see if they have direct deposit information in their system to be able to direct deposit, because they don't want to deal with checks. They want to be able to electronically send you the money. And if they don't have direct deposit information for you, there's talks that they're going to implement a portal so that people can go in and log on and update the direct deposit information. But there's still inevitably going to be people that are just going to get checks in the mail.
So if you've paid taxes in the last few years, you're somehow eligible for something in this stimulus package.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, there's different qualifying, there's different rules, but most people should get a check.
Okay.
Sure. Like there may be some phase outs, and everyone's going to be a little bit different, but I think the goal here is really the same. Try to get as much out there to, the U.S. taxpayers as possible, just to help keep them afloat.
Yeah, and to speak numbers, it's $1,200 for a single taxpayer. If you're married, you're going to get $2,400. And if you have qualifying children, then each child is going to get $500. You're going to get $500 extra per child.
Okay. All right. So now coming over to the other side with the employer, the question that I get everywhere, the question I have myself, am I eligible? Who's eligible? What kind of money do I get? If I laid off my employees, does that mean I'm not eligible? Let's start there. Who's eligible to get this, and what can they get?
Sure. So there's the CARES Act is really providing or making available, primarily two different loans. The first one being the Paycheck Protection Program, or most commonly known as the PPP. The PPP, as the title states, Paycheck Protection, it's to help get stimulus back into the hands of business owners so that they can keep their employees on payroll, so that they can keep paying either their mortgages or their rents of their business facilities, help pay for utilities. These loans have to be directly requested with an SBA approved lender. You can't go online and just file an application online. You really have to go work with an SBA lender, and we'll get into that a little bit now in the next few seconds. There's a lot of talks that this is free money, that it's like a grant, that the loans are going to be forgiven. It's not a grant, it is a loan. So loans generally have to be repaid. Now the government is putting in certain guidelines that potentially may make this loan forgivable. So you're gonna have to follow this criteria. That criteria being that the loans have to be used, the proceeds of the loan have to be used so that you maintain your employees on payroll, or if you bring back employees that have had to be laid off or furloughed, that you bring them back and you pay them with these proceeds. That's one big criteria. And that's what's anticipated that the majority of these proceeds are going to be used for. The next one is, like I mentioned before, paying for mortgages or rent expenses, lease expenses, as it relates to your business. And the third big one is utilities. So the utilities, what you need, phone, electricity, water, etc., to make sure that your business continues to stay afloat. As Yamaris is probably going to comment, business owners need to keep detailed records of their expenses and how they're using these proceeds to ensure that the loan is going to be forgivable. Another question that I've been receiving a lot is, so how does the loan become forgivable? Where do we get this verified? Your lender. You will work with your lender to ask for the loan to be forgiven and then go through the process with them. Those details, I don't really have them right now. I assume that every lender is going to have their own unique process on how to get that done. But what I would probably make most important is making sure that you have the proceeds tracked as best as possible so that when that time comes to ask for the loan to be forgiven, you can easily show your documentation how you use the proceeds, for these different expenses that I just covered. Yamaris, is there anything that you'd like to add, please, on the PPP?
Yeah. To add to that a little bit, the forgiveness, they are going to see that at least 75% of the forgiven amount must have been used for payroll. So that's like one big qualifier to make sure that your loan is forgiven. Now, if your loan is not forgiven, it's still a pretty good deal because it's only at 1% interest right now, and they're legally only allowed to charge up to 4% interest. When they first started, and another warning, that these rules have been changing daily. So the law was signed into effect on the 27th. But the SBA has changed certain guidelines. The application has changed like probably 4 times already for these loans. So originally they had it at 4%, then they dropped it to 0.5%, then the bank started complaining and they pulled it up to a 1 point again. So now it's at 1%. It's still a good deal. And then we're going to talk about the other loan, the disaster loan. That one can be refinanced into this loan. That one's at a higher interest rate. It can be refinanced into this loan.
About 1%, that's 0.5, 1%. We're pretty much talking about free money. That's
almost. And again, it's the purpose of the stimulus, right? It's really to get money back into business owners' pockets to help them continue operating and ensure that their businesses don't go under.
So how complicated is this form that you would fill out for PPP through the SBA? Am I saying that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. How complicated is it?
So I have seen the application myself. It's an application that the SBA has put out there and has made available to the different lenders, the different approved lenders. Given how quickly all of this has transpired, lenders are working really, really hard to try to get their systems up and running, to get their processes in place, to start processing all these applications. There are some banks that are already up and running as of last Friday. There are some banks that are still getting up and running, and there are some other financial institutions that it is my understanding that they've already ceased taking in any new applications because they have received an abundant amount of requests. That aside, the best thing, number one, would be go to your existing financial provider. Who do you have your current business checking account with? Who has your relationship? Go to the bankers that you've usually been dealing with. They know your relationships. Hopefully they may have your financial information, but they already have your bank accounts. They'll facilitate the process of getting you an application and telling you or streamlining the process of what financial information they may need to collect, from you or your CPA. Some clients don't have I'm sorry?
No, I was gonna say, Yamaris, you want to add anything to that as far as the form and how complicated it is?
Yeah, in terms of the complicated part, one part that's really the biggest part of it is figuring out what your loan amount is going to be. It's not going to be like the other loan that they give you the amount that you pretty much qualify for based on what, right, the disaster loan. The payroll, the one we're talking about now, which is the Paycheck Protection Program one, that one is based on your, can you hear me okay?
I hear you fine.
Okay. That one is based on the monthly, your average monthly payroll. So there's a calculation that they tell you to do based on your average monthly payroll. And you need to make sure that you have your records in place for that. And you can pull that from your payroll provider or have your accountant help you. I've been assisting some of my clients with that because they don't know how to fill out that part of the form or whatever. And they want to go to their bank and they request this information. And the other thing I wanted to add, like Virginia was saying, it really depends on the bank. So you're going to go to your bank, but a lot of these banks have different requirements as to what you're supposed to submit. So what seems to be standard is like payroll reports to back up that calculation that I mentioned. But some of them are asking for additional things. So it really does depend on the bank. And you just have to kind of, my main recommendation is to, figure out what it is that you have to do and like be prepared for it. This is the time to like gather your documents and just be prepared and just act as quickly as possible because like what Virginia said, some of these already saying that they're not going to accept applications or they're not even ready online yet.
Isn't this documentation that they're asking for, or the additional documentation they could be asking for, something that, you know, your accountant or financial consultant would already have? So, or is there something just so strange that they ask for sometimes that you've heard that you're like, oh my God, how do I get that?
I'll let Virginia answer this one.
Sure. So historically, I think that banks or bankers have been known to ask for an abundant amount of financial information. And we definitely saw that coming out of the financial crisis, you know, in 2009, 2010, and so on. Here again today, now, again, this is very new, but, and I'm not working in a bank today, so I can't confirm this, but I think the whole purpose of this is to try to get those funds out there as quickly as possible. Friday evening, I spoke to someone that had applied Friday morning and their loan was approved Friday afternoon. They worked with their existing bank. They provided the information up front and got it approved. To Yamariz's point, I think, like, or to your point, Carlos, yes, your CPA will very likely have a lot of information, but we also have to remember it's April right now. Clients are in the process, or we're in the process of finalizing tax returns for 2019, or maybe even placing them on extension. So not everything may be available just yet. So I think it's going to really depend on a per financial institution on what they are asking for, how much they are able to streamline the process. And so therefore, you know, I think it's just best to, number one, start with the current institution that you have a relationship with. And number two, to Yamariz's point, reach out to your advisors, get those payroll numbers in order, because that's definitely going to be one of the most important factors in determining the loan amount. The other thing that I wanted to...
Go ahead.
There's another point, like coming from the banking background, two important points that I think are very big deals as it relates to this loans for many clients. Number one, unsecured loans. They are not requiring any form of collateral. So that's a really big deal. Clients don't have to put any collateral for these loans. And number two, no personal guarantees. So that's another very, very big deal. I haven't seen any kind of loans like of this type, or very minor, where those two items are off the table. Those two items are off the table.
So Virginia, tell them what collateral and personal guarantee is for anybody that needs
sure.
to know.
Sure. So an uncollateralized loan, no collateral, meaning unsecured. Those are all the different versions of how to explain that. What that basically means is that the bank is not holding any other asset of yours, so that it can be a source of repayment if the client were to default on the loan. For example, if you are a business owner and you need a loan for equipment for your business, then the collateral is going to be that equipment that's for your business. If you don't repay the loan, the bank seizes your collateral. The same thing, kind of similar, as when you're purchasing a home. The collateral is a home. So in this case, no collateral. Number two, personal guarantee. So business owners, you go out and you request a loan from a financial institution. You are going to be required to personally guarantee that credit facility. What does that mean? That means that if my company, ABC company, defaults and does not pay that loan, the bank has the right to come after my personal assets to get it to become repaid. When that happens, or hopefully when that never happens, but when banks are underwriting to that, that's when all of your personal finances come into play. The banks will be asking you for personal financial statements, verification of your liquidity if it's at another financial institution, to know that the client has the wherewithal to pay these credits. I don't anticipate that here, given that that's not going to be a requirement, but each and every bank might have their different guidelines on how they underwrite these credits.
So to summarize this, not all banks right now can do this. The ones that can, you should go to your bank where you have your business checking account and fill out the information and give them the required documents. If your bank does not do this yet, I guess reach out to them and find out when they are. Do you have other recourse that if your bank's not doing it, but you have active payroll right now and you want some help, are there alternative sources that you can go to?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I've been, working with new clients or clients that are being introduced to me, some individuals just don't have a relationship with their financial institution. So the first thing I'm telling you to do is, what's the institution, and we go research to understand that they are an SBA approved lender. The second point is just given my relationships with bankers over 20 years, having my career here in South Florida. I do have relationships with numerous banks. I do have, some lenders that are pre-approved already to be working on SBAs, and I'm happy to facilitate those introductions as they come. Otherwise it's cold calling, picking up the phone and calling a bank to see if they're approved and trying to form a relationship. But I would tell you that, having that introduction, coming from a reliable source, a trusted source, probably going to go a little bit further. So reach out to your CPAs, reach out to your Yamaris, reach out to me, and we'll be happy to discuss and make introductions as best we can.
One more thing from my side, a question from me for this PPP. What if a lot of myself and a lot of other business owners, especially in Ecom, work with virtual assistants, but they don't, in my case, the majority of my virtual assistants that live outside of the country, I don't pay them directly. I'll work with a company in the US to do my pay for my wages to Upwork.com in the US. What does that count?
No, so they specifically stated in the guidance, and you can actually see it in the application as well, that paying workers that reside outside of the United States does not count towards that payroll calculation, that payroll amount.
Okay. That's, I guess, not the best of news for me, but
oh no, yeah.
Where's all my good news, Yamaris? Before we go on to the economic injury disaster loan, is there anything in my ignorance that I'm not asking about the CARES Act that you feel listeners should know or should be asking about the CARES Act?
Well, one of the points that we didn't touch upon, that it's a question that I have been receiving quite a bit. So yes, there's, millions and millions of small businesses in the United States, but a lot of these small businesses are sole proprietors, are single member LLCs that don't necessarily have employees. They're not giving out W-2s or 1099s, and it's just them running their own business. And a big question that I have is, do I qualify? I don't have employees. Do I qualify for the payment for the Paycheck Protection Program? The answer is yes. And that is still a topic that has a lot of gray in it. We don't have all the clear answers, but later this week, as of April the 10th, more information and maybe even applications should be made available. So there'll be more to come on that, but small business owners that don't have employees on payroll and you're just running your own business, stay tuned.
Okay, so they're holding out hope there. Yamaris, you want to add anything on that?
No, it's basically what she said, that yes, they would qualify, but because they're rolling this out so quickly, they still don't have the guidance laid out for all the details. So
the banks don't have the guidance.
Yeah, they started out, they said April 10th, they will roll out the loan applications for the business owners, and April 10th, it will be for the independent contractors and the sole proprietorships. So the sole proprietors. So, if you don't have employees, how exactly how do they determine how much money you can borrow if the instructions right now say that it has to be a calculation based on your payroll amount? So that's what the details of that is what we're waiting for. They just kind of vaguely said you would use your net earnings from your company, which implies if you have a loss, then you don't apply, So there's still a lot of questions to be answered regarding the how-to for those people.
Okay, let's switch gears and go over to the economic injury disaster loan. Who qualifies for that? How is it different than PPP? Is it an either or can you get both?
Sure. So,
or Virginia?
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
No, yeah, Virginia, you want to talk about the...
Oh, okay, sure. So on the economic injury disaster loan, this one is a little bit different, a little bit unique in the sense that it also has a grant tied to it. When you go online, and this one you can go online to apply for it, you can also at the same time request to see if you qualify for a grant up to $10,000. Grants are different than loans. So grants do not need to be repaid. This is a very simple application, or fairly simple application that can be done online. You're going to go through a series of questions. They're going to want to understand the structure of your business, how it's owned. They're going to want to understand what have been the gross revenues and what have through January of 2019 through January of 2020. And they're going to want to understand for the same time period the cost of goods sold. They're going to ask you for some personal information, some information on your business that most business owners should have readily available. And that's it. The application shouldn't take more than 10-15 minutes to complete online. You will be provided an application number, a reference number, and you will be receiving an email, whatever email you provide to them, and you will receive notification once they begin working on your file, not before then. Once they grab your file and they start working on your app, you will be notified. And I guess at that point, you will be made aware if you did qualify for the grant and or if you did qualify for the loan under this specific program. This one also includes, this one's a little bit wider in range with how to qualify. So this one immediately sole proprietors can apply online. So if you don't have, employees, W-2 employees on your payroll, and you're just you operating, you can go in and ahead and you select that type of business on the different option on the first screens of, how your business is structured. This one has not as strict as the limitations as the payment protection program, the Paycheck Protection Program. So it's not necessarily that it cannot cover just paychecks or just mortgage and interest expenses. So it's a little bit broader on how you can use the proceeds. Maximum loan amount here for each business, $2 million. A question that we didn't go through in the last topic, but it applies to both loans. I've had this question come up before. I'll have a business owner that owns multiple businesses, different tax IDs. Can I apply for each business, or am I just limited to like one loan for all my businesses? You are able to, you're on mute, Carlos, if you want to say something.
I was like, my fingers are crossed on the answer to this one.
It's going to be an answer you like. So yes, you can apply for each and every one of your businesses. So if you have 3 different businesses and you need financial assistance with your 3 businesses, you can apply 3 times for the different loan programs.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And what was that website that you said people could go to fill out this application?
Sure. So I don't have the website off the top of my head in front of me.
SBA.gov. Just go to SBA.gov.
Just go to the SBA. You're going to see a banner up there for COVID-19 financial assistance, and you can just, it's very easy to navigate through there and get to the different loans available.
Go ahead, Yamaris.
Something I wanted to add to that is that the application process doesn't stop there, right, Virginia? Like they're going to contact you to ask for additional documentation, right?
That's correct. And so, here, you're going to be able to just submit the basic information to get the process going. More than likely, I think this is going to probably turn around and be given to some qualified and approved lenders who will then be reaching out to the individual borrowers to then follow up and request additional information to go ahead and get the loan approved. Absolutely.
Like what sort of information?
Again, the same thing that we're talking about. Whether it's going to be, profit and loss statements, perhaps some previous year's tax returns. I'm not sure. In this case, they may require some personal financial information, a personal financial statement, maybe a verification of liquidity. This particular loans that are greater than $25,000 may require collateral. So they may ask you, or they are going to be asking for collateral greater than $25,000. And if your loan amount is under $200,000, so anything less than $200,000, there's not going to be any personal guarantee required. So if you're coming in and you have a $250,000 request, or anything above 200, you're very likely going to need to be prepared to show personal finances, to the lender.
I'm confused then. I thought in the beginning of this was like a forgivable. loan. Is that not the case?
That's the Paycheck Protection Program.
Okay.
This one is not. So something to clarify about that one is that this one is not, and this one's at a higher rate. It's at 3.75%. The Paycheck Protection Program is at 1%, with a portion of it being forgivable, depending on, you have to prove that you spent money on what they're asking you to spend money on, the qualified expenses. So the payroll, the rent, utilities. So that's like a separate application that goes on because you're petitioning for them to forgive that. So this one, the SBA one, it's not forgivable, but they do have this advance of up to $10,000, and that number depends on how many employees you have and what they deem to give you as an advance. And that advance that you get, if you get denied for the loan, you don't have to repay it back, which is the information we have as of now. So that's the Economic Injury Disaster Loan through the SBA.gov website.
Have you seen that one is easier to qualify or get relief from more than the other, like to receive money quicker?
I haven't seen anything just yet so far as of, today, which, Monday afternoon. I have only heard so far as of Friday evening, one client that submitted their information Friday morning to their banker and was approved Friday, like at 4:30 in the afternoon, under the PPP. This was under the PPP.
What does that mean, though? They're approved. They just get a letter saying, hey, you've been approved, or does that mean they woke up and money was in their bank?
No, that means you got a letter or you received a phone call from your banker that your loan request was approved. And now I'm not exactly sure when funding will take place. It might be probably sometime this week. And so now the proceeds of whatever they were approved for will be deposited into their bank account.
Wow.
What I've been hearing about the SBA, the advance of up to 10K, they said that you would have the money in your bank account within 3 days. They originally said that, but we know that that has not been the case for people that have already applied.
We're now looking maybe 2 to 3 weeks. Like,
Okay.
I mean, that was another guideline that was put out there, but I'm not sure if that's accurate or if they are going to, overpromise, and make it quicker.
Yeah. The other thing that I have been hearing that is interesting, is that for the SBA loans, the people that have been getting approved has been at around like 25% of their sales. This is a complete rumor. Do not quote me on this, but this is what I have heard.
Okay. On this second one, this economic injury disaster loan, is there anything else that I haven't asked that you think would be important to bring up?
I have a point on that, which is about the advance. And if you're applying for both loans, if you're applying for both the PPP and the EIDL or the disaster loan, the forgiven amount on the PPP has to be reduced by the advance that you get on the disaster loan. So if you're applying to have $20,000 forgiven from the PPP and you receive the maximum advance of $10,000, they're not going to forgive the full $20,000 for you. They're only going to forgive the net of $10,000.
Okay. Yeah. That's a lot of information.
It is. It's a lot of information, and in a very short period of time, we had to scramble to learn this, and they've been sending new information out on a daily basis, and yeah, it's a lot. Like, no wonder like all the banks are overwhelmed, all the accountants are overwhelmed, financial consultants. It's a lot, but you know what? I think it's gonna be worth it if it gets to help some businesses out.
Absolutely.
Virginia, Yamaris, do you have any advice for any of the listeners on what they could be, what they should pay attention to over the next week or two, anything that you haven't mentioned in the show? And then also, how can any of my listeners reach out to you directly if they have any questions or need help with their filings?
Sure. So I would suggest, get in touch with your bankers, get in touch with your CPAs or your financial advisors, your consultants that may have some information on this. While the government has put the windows, to apply for these loans out, for the next couple of months, once capital has been allocated and deployed, they're going to run out. Not sure if these programs are going to be extended, if additional capital is going to be made available. So time is of the essence. to get this moving. So that's one important point that I would definitely, make and urge that business owners and even individuals, sole proprietors, et cetera, get in touch with their teams to make sure they get the process going.
Yamaris, anything you want to add?
No, that I think we covered. I think we covered the majority of the important aspects of it. And like Virginia said, just don't delay and act fast. If you don't have, from a tax standpoint, if you don't have 2019 bookkeeping done, if you don't have numbers yet, make sure that you get that ready to go, because you're gonna need that in order to be able to apply for these loans. So make sure that you have that squared away. And that's it. In terms of contacting me, just go to my website, ecomowl.com. I have my contact information on there. You can schedule a call, or you can email me at Yamaris, YAMARIS @ecomowl.com.
All right, thank you. Virginia, how can people reach you?
Sure. So you can visit my website, which is vxvconsulting.com. And right there from my website, you can feel free to reach me via email, or you can schedule a time on my calendar directly from the website so that we can have a verbal phone conversation if you'd like. Also, VXV Consulting on Instagram, you can send me direct messages through there if you'd like to chat as well.
Perfect. And just so everybody gets it, that's V as in Victor, right? V as in Victor, X-ray,
V as in Victor, X, V as in Victor, Consulting, all together.
I'm looking for BXB constantly and not
V as in Virginia.
Yeah, V as in Virginia.
V as in Virginia and V as in Vic.
Yes, as in Virginia Vic, VXV Consulting. Elise, thank you so much for your time and sharing all that information. I feel like I just drank out of a fire hose. I'm hoping to listen to this again and pause and then digest and do that. So thank you so much. And as changes happen, I hope that if there's any more confusion, I can definitely bring you both on again.
Of course.
Perfect. Definitely. Definitely.
Be safe.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Liked what you heard and want to stay connected? Join our Facebook group or find me anywhere on social media @Wizards of Amazon, or text the word Amazon to 69922.